Thanks for joining us here on Steam Culture. Welcome back. If you're one of our longtime viewers, welcome. If it's the first time, we're glad you're with us. Now, the plow is one of the most widely used and oldest farm implements out there. It goes back all the way to the ancient Egyptians and China's Han Dynasty. And of course, as with anything, there have been many changes to it over the years. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans got a hold of it and did their own thing with it. In the 1700s, there's a lot of documented technological advances. Interestingly enough, most of them pioneered by a guy by the name of Jethro Tull. Not the same person, but pretty cool name. Now, here's why we're talking about the plow. Interestingly enough, the first mechanized version of the plow was actually a tiller, and the tiller was powered by steam, invented by this guy, Arthur Clifford Howard. Now in 1912, he got a disc-shaped cultivator, and he ran a steam line from his father's steam tractor to the cultivator to power it. Found out that it didn't compact the soil as much as other devices, and the first iteration of the mechanized tiller was born. Actually, it was called a rotavator. Now, steam engine went by the wayside, internal combustion engine became the norm, as it is with most things, and other inventors actually created something called the tiller. Just about everyone has seen a combine in action. As a kid, you're driving down the road and you see the combine in the field bringing in the grain or rice. All over the world, combines are at work. And you remember when you're driving down the road at night, you'd see the big lights on the combine? That was like my favorite. Now, the combine, like most machinery, has a story, and it has a start. Now, why is it called a combine? Because it's a combination of a couple things. See, harvesting the grain and threshing the grain years ago were separate activities. The combine brought them together, combination combine. That's where it's got its name. Well, the first combine was actually pulled by a horse. In fact, the biggest combines had a team of 40 horses to pull them, and they could bring in about 40 acres a day. Well, in 1886, George Berry had a better idea. He had a steam-powered combine, which is the first self-propelled combine in history. It could bring in 100 acres a day. Now, here's what's really significant about this. It was powered by biomass. First of its kind, who knew, right? Well, what he was doing is the straw that would come out of the back of the combine, he would gather that up, put that in the boiler, and burn it for fuel. So really, it was renewable fuel source. The other thing is that he created its own power transfer mechanism, or PTO. If you drive any kind of tractor or mower, you know what a PTO is. Well, the steam from the tractor engine, he would pull off steam to power a secondary engine that ran the harvester. So pretty smart guy, pretty cool. So right here on Steam Culture, you have learned about the steam-powered combines. Hey, you're watching Steam Culture, and this is going to be a very manly episode. We're going to talk about manly things. I'm not talking about your prostate. I'm talking about like this hot rod and the Case 150 steam engine tractor. Originally built in 1904, they were all left for scrap. But Corey Anderson found an original boiler from one of these bad dudes, and then from there, built from the ground up, from scratch, an exact replica. Check this thing out. So the Case 150 is referred to as the Titanic of Tractors for good reason, because it's 15 feet wide, 14 feet tall, it's 28 feet long, weighs 75,000 pounds, fully loaded. Built for heavy hauling, they could pull up to 50 tons up a 10% grade. Now, like I said, they were built in 1904 and only 9 were actually made. And according to a historical account, one of those 9 actually ended up right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Maybe I'll head out later and see if I can find it and rebuild my own. There's no way I could rebuild my own. The work that this guy did with his team is unbelievable to rebuild this thing. Today, we are talking about grain elevators. Now, grain elevators are those iconic and massive structures that sort of dot the Midwest, storing grain for all kinds of different uses. But they didn't exist until the mid-1800s. Now, about that time, farming was becoming a cash crop because of mechanized farming, and farmers needed a way to get their grain to market. And one of the ways was the Erie Canal, provided a way to get the grain to Buffalo. Well, in Buffalo, a gentleman by the name of Joseph Dart, inventor, lawyer, friend of the farming industry, and he looked at these grain elevators and thought there was a better way to do it. So here's what he was trying to improve upon. boat comes up to the grain elevator, and all the grain that's down in the hull has to be physically lifted by guys with shovels to the top of the ship. From there, a manual series of buckets on some pulleys would take the grain into the elevator and then to be taken up into all these different sorting bins. So he thought there's a better way to do this. So he developed a sprocket and chain system, and hooked on that chain and pulleys was buckets. So he mechanized the process using steam. He put in a steam boiler and a steam engine, and he drove that sprocket and chain system with buckets. But here's where he really differentiated himself. Instead of having laborers down in the ship bring the grain topside, then to be taken into the mill by the hopper, he made two hoppers, or what they would call marine legs. There was a mechanized leg that took the grain into the elevator, but he also made a mechanized leg that went down into the, down into the hull of the ship, a bucket system to bring the grain up, and that invention still exists today. They now go down into the ship, have done it ever since, and bring the grain up from the hull of the ship. So, pretty cool invention. It was the world's first steam-driven grain elevator, and the leg that goes into the ship, invention still exists today. I thought that was pretty cool. So maybe you knew about that, but if you didn't, you know now, because you watch Steam Culture. Now, before this hay got in the barn baled, it was out in the field. Well, this week on Steam Culture, I'm going to tell you how steam is used to bring that hay in from the field. But before I start, if you hear a bunch of duck noises, that's because our duck friend Gloria is here. Now, Gloria's actually a dude named Gloria, and that's how they roll here in the barn. So let me tell you about hay steaming. Now, found out from some friends of mine at the shop, they're farmers, there's very specific windows to bale hay because there's some natural dew. And natural dew helps bale the hay because it's not dry and brittle and it doesn't break. So they get a lot more hay into the bale versus leaving it in the field. But you only have those specific windows. Well, smart guy here in America invented what's called the hay steamer. So it goes between the tractor and it goes between the baler, and it injects steam into the windrow, which is where the hay is about to enter the baler. Adds about 2% moisture from what I could read, just enough to make sure that that hay isn't brittle and it doesn't break up, and they get a ton of it into the bale. Now, interesting thing for the farmer is now, instead of only being able to bale in the morning and the night, they can bale all day long, especially in these hotter climates, drier climates like Arizona and Utah. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I wanted to share that with you. Hay steaming, only here on Steam Culture. Back in February, we did an episode on how to kill weeds with steam, becoming a very popular technique because it's gentle. No chemicals, no herbicides, no pesticides, and takes care of the problem for people that are organic farmers or very sensitive to how much chemical that they're using. Well, there's another element to this, not just the weed. How about the soil that the weed and the plant grow in? Well, you can treat that soil with steam. Now, soil over time gets these spores and bacteria in it, different things that affect, obviously, the quality of soil, but obviously affect, what kind of yield you're going to get. So what they'll do is they'll steam the soil. A couple different ways you can do that, as you see from the pictures. One is this carpet-looking thing that they drag down the rows and it lays the steam down on top. Another one is this spike-looking job that puts the steam a couple inches into the soil. There's also something called sheet steaming, where a literal sheet, a large bag is placed over a large surface area, inject the steam, you leave it there for a couple of hours, and it really penetrates the soil and kills all the bacteria and the spores and really revitalizes the soil with nutrients and things like that. Well, new technology we just found called the Flow Steamer. Love that name. It's gonna be in a hip hop video. Just watch, trust me. And it's a large box with an agitator in it and steam connections. Steam goes in, agitate the soil. It goes in there, gets rid of all the spores and nasties, and then you can use it. I believe this is popular with greenhouses and things like that. But steam technology is being used to not only kill weeds, but also to reinvigorate the soil and get rid of all the nasties. So again, very popular with people that don't like chemicals in organic food sources.